Right, we're going to have an abridged shiur tonight. I do apologize for the fact that we're having a shorter shiur. I'm going to start with a point. I was discussing with Benji last time, and I just want to bring this up. If you remember, I don't know, because it was last week, I don't know if you remember everything we said last week. Remember we spoke about Medina Sayyam? Yeah?
Last week, yeah?
Oh, you weren't here last week?
No, it was fine.
You remember Medina Sayyam, right? So we said that the Ran that we had, Tosa says Medina Sayyam means a faraway place, but what he means only is to say not Rekem and Cheger. And what the Ran explained in Rashi was that Medina Sayyam is really, he was trying to refer to Medina Sayyam because the way Eretz Yisrael is shaped. So if you look at the western border of Eretz Yisrael, what you have is you'll have only a border. You won't have any muvla'os. You won't have any cities that are somehow swallowed up by Eretz Yisrael, and you won't have any smuchos. You won't have any cities that are close nearby Eretz Yisrael. So, is this mine or somebody else's? No, it's not mine. So I was just thinking, in the Ran, why does Medina Sayyam mean that? Why does Medina Sayyam mean? Everybody is saying some kind of interesting explanation in Medina Sayyam. Why are we saying these interesting explanations in Medina Sayyam? Why don't we say Medina Sayyam means Medina Sayyam? Yeah? Do you understand what I'm saying? You understand my question? Sorry. The question is, why are we giving an interesting definition to Medina Sayyam? Why don't we give a straightforward definition to Medina Sayyam? Everyone's like trying to play around with Medina Sayyam. Right? Well, Tosa is saying, it means really far away, but it's not really far away. It means even close, but not Rekem and Cheger. And Rashi is saying it's like the border of Eretz Yisrael on the west side.
Because everyone has their own boundary of where
Right. Well, everybody does have their own boundary, but why that was so it's an interesting way of saying it. So I was just wondering, but the only point that I didn't want to bring out over here is, and I think this is very, very important because in general in Gemara this happens very often. What does Rabbi Gamliel say? Let's look in the Mishnah. What does Rabbi Gamliel say? Rabbi Gamliel Omer, Af hamevi min harekem min hacheger. What is Rabbi Gamliel trying to say? Is he trying to just tell you something about two cities? Did Rabbi Gamliel just feel, oh, by the way, I just wanted to mention two cities in Eretz Yisrael that also, or two cities in Chutz La'aretz that are not included. Is he just mentioning these cities by coincidence? What's the answer? Yes or no? What would you say? Just logically speaking, is he mentioning these cities by coincidence?
No.
No. So what's he trying to say with them? Did you guys see the Gemara already? I know some of you went further. I don't know who went how far, and that's why I'm not.
Because there's a dispute.
There's a dispute. So Rekem.
Yeah. He says.
So Rekem and what do Rekem and Cheger mean? What do they really mean to say? Smuchos and muvla'os, right? He doesn't mean to speak about that city, Rekem. Rekem is just an example that the Mishnah is using for a city that I don't know which one. I don't remember which one's close and which one is swallowed up within the borders of Eretz Yisrael. But one of these cities is just trying to tell you any city that's close nearby. The other city is trying to tell you any city that is swallowed up within the border of Eretz Yisrael, even if it's not so close nearby.
Just saying Rabbi Gamliel holds up two opinions here.
Rabbi Gamliel is adding two more things. Rabbi Gamliel is adding two more things. Smuchos and muvla'os.
But I thought Rabbi Gamliel only says muvla'os later on in the Gemara.
I don't know. I didn't see the whole Gemara. I didn't continue, so I'm not gonna argue with you. It could be that you're right. But all I'm trying to say is that when Rabbi Gamliel uses the words Rekem and Cheger, is he trying to speak about cities, or is he using those cities as a code word? What's the answer? What do you think? Is he speaking about those specific cities? What do we just say? Is he trying to point out those cities? He's not really trying to point out those cities. So what is he trying to say? Any city that fits the criterion of Rekem and Cheger will have the halach of Rekem and Cheger. Right. But he's not chosen one city and said, oh, by the way, that city also. Yeah. Same thing with Kvar Ludim Lelud and Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer is not trying to say, oh, I've thought of one more city. I mean, you go up and down the border of Eretz Yisrael, there's lots and lots of cities that are close nearby that are this or that. So why they everybody decide to just choose a random city? Obviously not. We're not choosing random cities. What we're trying to say over here is Rekem and Cheger mean a certain thing. They're code words for a certain type of city. Kvar Ludim Lelud is a code word for a certain type of city. Yes?
Yeah.
Therefore, Medina Sayyam should also be a code word for a certain city. Medinas Hayam can't be taken at face value. The same way Rekem and Cheger are not being taken at face value.
I thought
Don't take Medinas Hayam at... Well, how did we translate Medinas Hayam? We were stuck last week. That's where we had the whole discussion. What does Medinas Hayam mean? So Tosfos says Medinas Hayam really means far away. But we don't really mean far away. We just mean not Rekem and Cheger.
Well, all these things which the rabbis are talking about later, those are the code words to say Medinas, that is Medinas Hayam. This is a code word to say yes.
No, but it's more than that. It's not only Medinas Hayam, but there's different... These are code words. One is a code word for smuchos, and one is a code word for muklos, and one is a code word for even closer than smuchos. That's kfar ludim lelud. Rashi says even closer.
Right.
Yeah? So we're using all these words, we're using all these cities as examples of certain types of cities. So therefore, when we use Medinas Hayam, we're not using Medinas Hayam in the same way we normally use Medinas Hayam, but we have to look at Medinas Hayam in the context of the Mishnah. The same way all the other cities in the Mishnah are certain code words for a certain type of a city, so to Medinas Hayam is going to be a code word for a certain type of area outside Eretz Yisrael, but not to be taken at the normal translation of Medinas Hayam. That's point number one that I wanted to point out. Okay. Point number two, I wanted to speak about this. I know that Rabbi Gold spoke about this a little bit. I'm just going to speak. I'm going to touch on this point. I think it's a very, very important point because there's a lot of basics in this Rashi. Look at the Rashi Tzarech. Remember, let's go back to our Mishnah for a second. Maybe get Medinas Hayam. Somebody brings a get from Medinas Hayam. Tzarech sheyoyma. He has to say b'fanai nechtam b'fanai nechtam. What was the question we asked? He has to say, who is he? Yeah?
Shliach.
Right, so you're saying Shliach. What are the other... So there's really three options over here in this case. So in this Tzarech Sheyomar. So I'd like to go through the three options and I'd like to show you what Rashi says and I'd like to explain why Rashi says it. So what are the three options? Who could have to say B'fanai nechtam b'fanai nechtam? So let's go back to who is the Mr. Get himself? Who is the head honcho as far as the get's concerned?
Husband.
Very good. So husband's number one. Yeah. Then we have two types of shluchim. We have a shliach lekabbalah and a shliach la'alacha. What's the difference between the two? Who knows the difference?
Well, the Kabbalah is acting like a Baal or something.
No, the other way around. He's acting like the woman. Kabbalah means accepting. Yeah? So the shliach lekabbalah is acting as the wife. So if the wife says, look, I can't make it to Bezin that day, I'm very, very busy, I got a very busy job, I know he wants to give me a get, Benji, do me a favor, I'm going to make you my shliach lekabbalah. That means when Benji goes into Bezdin and they put the get into Benji's hands, it's as if the hand has come into the get has come into the hands of the woman and divorced. Yeah, the woman's divorced. And what's the other type of shliach?
Halacha.
Halacha. What's the shliach la'halacha? Like the word connotates?
The husband sends the person that's the
to just walk and bring it. Yeah? And then he still has to do that. Shliach la'halacha still has to do the actual nisina. He has to give the get to somebody else. Right. So let's see Rashi. So tzarech, Rashi is now going to find for us, who is this tzarech? Tzarech hashliach, the shliach hamaviyah loma, the shliach who brings it, not the husband. With time and Mefarish Gemara is going to explain the reason which we discussed briefly. Ushliach zeh, this shliach, habal aso shliach lehoilacha. The husband made this person a shliach lehoilacha to bring the get. How does Rashi know that? Yeah? If we've just said that there are three possibilities of people that should have to say b'fanai nechtam, why does Rashi limit it down to one possibility?
It says Hamevi get. That's what starts with Hamevi get.
Well, so who's the Mevi?
Well, firstly, that rules out the Kabbalah. Because he's not doing any movie at all. He just accepts.
No, he is. But he is bringing it now to the wife.
That's not relevant to the divorce process.
Okay, that's a very, very important point. That's a very important point. Did you hear what he just said? We'll have to come back to that. We'll come back to that. That's one of the key points over here. Yeah?
Okay.
So Hamevi get Medinas Hayam. Somebody who brings a get Medinas Hayam. That person could be bringing the get when the woman is divorced already. Like we said before, he could be bringing a get. This guy was really a shliach lekabbalah. Yeah? So the woman doesn't like flying. And the husband said, I'm not coming from America. I'm in America. I'm not leaving America. You either send me a shliach or you don't get divorced. She says, well, I don't fly. I'm very nervous of flying, I don't fly. So she, calls up Benji again, Benji Ashliach le Kabbalah, sends him to America, pays for his ticket. Benji has a good time for a week and a half in America. In the meantime, he goes into the Bezdin, he picks up the get, and he comes back. So now Benji already has accepted the get for the woman in America. When does she get divorced?
As soon as he accepts it.
As soon as Benji gets the get in America, this woman is divorced already. Yeah? Now Benji comes back to England, he shows up in Manchester. Does Benji now have to say B'fonai Nechtam when he gives the get to the lady? You're saying no. Why? Because that's not part of the divorce process.
No.
Yeah? Which is a correct point, and we're going to get to that. So therefore we're going to talk about the Shliach Laholacha, the Shliach that is actually bringing the get. So the Ran explains, this is a Ran if anybody wants to look it up, the Ran is on the Rif, on Naf Beis Amud Aleph. If you want to look up, you'd have it, you would probably also have it. Yeah, you do have it. However, we won't see it inside now. I don't know if it's worthwhile seeing it inside because I don't think we have the time to see it inside. But I'll just show you where it is, if you do want to look it up. Where it says V'kosav Rashi. On Beis Amud Aleph, V'kosav Rashi. That's the Dibur HaMaschil. That's the starting words over here. V'kosav Rashi. V'kosav Rashi in our Mishnah. Rashi writes in our Mishnah that the husband made this a shliach lekabbalah. So therefore, the Ran now goes into the discussion why he has to be a shliach lekabbalah and why we're not talking about the husband. So, what would happen if the husband gave the get? Let's go back to our reasonings. I think we discussed the two reasons already. Why do we need to say B'fanai Nechtam, B'fanai Nechtam? What did the Gemara say? We had Rabba and Rabba. What's the two reasons? Either because... or Mitzuin L'kaima. Which means either because people don't know that was written the Shema, we don't really know if it was written the Shema, or we don't know if somebody was there to actually to validate the get. If I walk in... No, not that say me. If Reuven walks into Bezdin, Reuven is the husband, and he wants to give the get to his wife, or he wants to give the get to a shliach. Do we have any question that this get has been written properly?
No.
Not really, right? Because Reuven knows that the get has to be written for his wife, and Reuven, if Reuven himself is giving the get, he's not going to come back later and say, oh, by the way, the get wasn't valid. Oh, the get wasn't valid? Why did you yourself give it? He said, no, somebody forged the signatures. You gave the get. Don't you come and say that this get's not valid.
Because Reuven the shliach.
Reuven is the husband.
The husband, right.
Yeah? The husband can't just come into Bezdin and say whatever he feels like about this get. Yeah, the get's no good. Why is the get no good? What makes this get no good? You yourself gave it. So therefore, says the Ran, it cannot be that the husband is giving the get, has to say B'fanai Nechtam, B'fanai Nechtam. Because for whatever reason we're saying B'fanai Nechtam, B'fanai Nechtam, that is not relevant when the husband is the one who's actually giving the get. Yeah? So that leaves us only with two possibilities. Either the shliach who accepts it, or the shliach who brings it. Which brings us back to your point. Remind me your name again?
Chaim.
Brings us back to Chaim's point. Which Chaim said, the shliach lekabbalah, when he accepts the get, what happens at that point?
Divorced.
She's divorced. Who did he get the get from?
How does he divorce when he accepts the get? I don't understand that.
Because he becomes like the woman's hands. When she asks him, she says, I'm making you the shliach now, so he becomes her official shliach.
When he is met with the husband, it's that they've been divorced.
So the husband is now giving it to this guy, but this guy has been made the shliach. This guy is now the man to accept the get.
He's like the woman. Right?
He's like the woman. He becomes like the woman and he can accept the get for her. Yeah?
Right.
So once the lady is divorced, that's it. The divorce process is over. And this is what you said before, what Chaim said. Once the lady is divorced already, now there's no point in saying B'fanai Nechtam, B'fanai Nechtam, because she's divorced. Right. It's only when you give over the divorce that you have to say B'fanai Nechtam, B'fanai Nechtam. So it cannot be the husband who's going to say B'fanai Nechtam, B'fanai Nechtam, because if he's giving it, it's obviously okay. It cannot be the Shlich LeKabbalah who's bringing the get to the woman who's going to say B'fanai Nechtam, B'fanai Nechtam, because the divorce has been done already. Now you can say whatever you want about the divorce. You can rip the divorce piece in half. You can rip the paper in half, doesn't matter, she's divorced.
That's what they do here, isn't it?
They do cut it up and they give it and they leave it in the Bezdin, and then they have a shtar gerushin, that if you want to have a piece of paper that you're divorced to remarry, the Beit Din will write your paper that you're divorced and you can remarry. So therefore, the only person that remains to be able to say B'fanai nechta is the man who's bringing the get, but who has not yet divorced her. It's not the husband, because if he was giving the get, then you cannot say the get's no good. It's not the person who accepted the get, because then it's all finished already. The only man that remains is the shliach lehoilacha. Therefore, and then we're going to finish with this because you have to go to Ma'ariv. Therefore, says the Ran, Rashi had to say shliach lehoilacha, because we said even though there are 3 candidates, we ruled out 2 of those candidates, which leaves us with only 1 candidate. Therefore, says Rashi, I can safely assume u'shliach zeh habal aso shliach le'alacha is a shliach le'alacha, because the husband can't say anything anymore, and the shliach le'kabbalah already did the get. It's finished. It's over. So the only person that's left is the shliach le'alacha. Therefore, Hamevi get Mibnina Sayam Tzarech Shiur has to be the shliach le'alacha, and he is the one that has to say b'fanei nechtam b'fanei nechtam. It would seem from over here, according to Rashi, the husband does not have to say b'fanei nechtam b'fanei nechtam, and the shliach le'kabbalah also does not have to say b'fanei nechtam or b'fanei nechtam. More tomorrow. Thank you.